Welcome to a Pint with Seaniebee, coming to you from a very cool artist's atelier, if you want to call it that, under a railway bridge in Loughborough near Brixton in London. It's got bullet holes in the glass, and they're probably not bullet holes, but they look like bullet holes.
Probably are.
They probably are bullet holes. There's lots of car breaking yards and garages outside a boxing club just down the road, and I'm in a bona fide artist studio, a guy who's probably Britain's most renowned kinetic artist. We find out what that is. He's a sculptor, a collage maker. There'll be trains buzzing by right over our heads, so it's all fucking authentic, right? Welcoming to the podcast a guy called Giles Walker. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you.
Tell me what a kinetic artist is.
Well, fundamentally, it's a sculptor who makes his sculptures move.
So downstairs is his workshop, which has got, like, just paint a picture for you. It's got, like, you know, mannequins that you would normally see in clothes stores that he's put motors into. If you go online and look up Giles Walker's website, you'll see The Last Supper. Talk to me about The Last Supper. Beautiful,
yeah,
sort of scary, dystopian kind of thing.
The Last Supper was my version of The Last Supper, and it has got 13 robots sitting around a table, sort of in conversation. And then on the table there are these other much smaller figures, about 12 inches tall, up to no good on the table. A picture of how I saw religion in the 21st century. A kind of commentary on whether religion is a good education for young minds.
We all know the answer to that, surely.
Well, we don't all. That's the trouble.
Not in Ireland.
No, a lot of us do.
Let's go down that rabbit hole, because what I liked about it is you have this thing about, like, imagine, I presume this is what you're saying, imagine how today's church ends up doing the Jesus thing. Is that in the future? It
wasn't really it was kind of more like it was actually in the present, but it was like you have these sort of relics. The figures around the table were kind of like relics from the past of upholding this kind of like unreasonable belief that, you know, religion is a good education. And the sort of the little figures on the table were more like modern day humans, the results of that philosophy that they've imposed on us. And it's all pretty bleak. The sort of Judas figure in the piece, he was the accused. He stands there like he's a child figure, and it's like accused that he's done something wrong. Anyway, me and my wife had adopted a child, or were going through the process of adopting a child around that time. One of the things that they struggled with on our sort of adoption application was that we said we didn't follow any religion. And then I was thinking, so they think that's unreasonable, but then if I said I followed this religion where they believe in this God, all-seeing, all-hearing God who make you sort of rot and burn in hell if you misbehave, with that
eternal damnation to
would that be
anyone
better?
Who questions my everlasting love.
And then it's just got, and then I got into the thoughts of sort of like, you know, if I had said this is what my ideas on punishment are and to bring up a child, and I didn't put it in a religious context, they probably would have said no way, you know. Way, yeah. So that's sort of got all that sort of.
I mean, at its core, it's lying to kids, and I agree with you that in a world where we have big fucking issues like the planet possibly dying and someone needing to go and fix it, and people getting inculcated at a very young age into what is clearly complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Revelation. I mean, there's no evidence that ever.
Absolute madness is what it is.
Yeah.
But it sticks, because at the same time as building last night, my mum was dying as well, and she wasn't a believer. She was dying of a really horrible disease, and even she was saying, "What have I done to deserve this?" And I'm just like, "Mum, we've done nothing." You know what I mean? It's just that's the way it goes. But you get in this ingrained sense that there's karma and all this sort of shit that comes from religion. So all that was thrown into this piece anyway, and it turned out to be really dark and moody. And even now, when I see it, I'm slightly shocked at where my head must have been.
Really?
Yeah. I feel quite detached from it in some ways, because you can tell it comes from quite a sort of dark place, and maybe that was sort of grief coming out.
Did your mother die while?
Yeah. Well, I think I just started it, and then she died, and then sort of carried on. And so I sort of buried myself in it as well a bit. So it's kind of, I think a lot of darkness came out. But then, having said that, I'm building this show for this September. I could tell I'm going into the same place. I'm going into the same place. What happens to
it? Is it like, so you install it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then you take it out, so you can. Is it all like boxed away, and you can?
The Last Supper, yeah, all packs down into like sort of 7 big
boxes.
Crates. You know, it's gone to America and it's travelled around a bit. Yeah, it has to be able to travel. I kind of like try and make sure that everything I build can be put away, just for storage reasons, and also I don't want to keep having to fix it every time I drag it out of the cupboard, you know. So I try and
do you
pack it
sell
away.
this? Like, could someone buy it?
You could buy it, yeah. No one
How
would.
much is it
but
worth?
you could-
How much was?
I think we were selling The Last Supper at one time for like 150 grand or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I think.
And there's only one of it.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to buy because obviously it's got a maintenance sort of problem.
Stick with the. So just give me a bit about where you were born and
So I was born.
what your early life is
I was
like.
born somewhere in Kent, Farringdon, I think it's called. Or, but my dad was in the Navy, so we travelled around every. Wherever he got posted. So,
Did you?
Yeah, so I haven't really got roots in that sense. Lived in Scotland, lived in West Country, lived in married quarters.
And what was your first memory as a kid? Where was it, Scotland or?
I'm not sure.
Did you have a happy childhood?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah,
And were you artistic in school?
I wasn't allowed to do art at school
Why?
because when it came to A levels, everyone agreed that I shouldn't do art. I should do something. So I did economics instead.
Who did? Your parents?
Parents and teachers all had a good gym
How,
work.
did you like art though when you were a boy?
It was all right. I didn't. To be honest, I got into theatre when I went to college. I did theatre, so I started writing, and that's funny enough. It all comes around, and now I sort of like these installation bits I do. The writing is a major part of it. So
Yeah.
I've kind of managed to still keep that within my work, which is interesting.
You're in performance.
Yeah, and in some ways what I do is these kinetic installations is a kind of mechanical theatre anyway. I
Yeah.
kind of build the characters, give them their roles, and I sort of write the piece. But what's interesting with sculpture is dialogue can kill it immediately. You know, you can kind of if you give too much away with dialogue, people get it straight away. It becomes repetitive, becomes really annoying.
Yeah.
So you have to be really careful to sort of like give enough. You have to
Keeping
sort of
it
use the
mysterious.
dialogue like a sort of soundscape
Yeah,
with sort of different textures and stuff like that, and not really give much away. And The Last Supper is something funny enough I've seen loads and loads of times, and it still doesn't annoy me. The soundtrack, which is the hardest thing to do, is to sort of like make something give enough. You have to just use it like a sort of painting. The words.
You want to get something out of it each time you listen and
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. And I think with this monster show in September, I'm sort of trying to do the same sort of thing where you kind of it's got to be part of the sculpture. It's not like this sculpture talks and this is what it says. It's got to be all part of the same experience.
So explain the monster project that you're working on.
Well, the Last Supper was kind of because it's all set around a table, so it's quite practical. It's quite easy to build because all the wiring can be hidden and all that. And you walk around the table, depending where you are around that table, depends on what bits of conversation you picked up on. But it's pretty contained, and monster's going to be much more spread out. So you're walking in and amongst it, these moving figures that are kind of talking to you and talking to each other. And some of the figures are going to be like about 4.5 meters tall. So there's some big ones, and then there's some human size, and then there's some even smaller ones. So it's all different. Yeah, it's 3 different sort of levels of scale. Totally immersive. So you do walk in and around it without giving too much away. The sort of concept behind it is kind of humanity being as a sort of refugee train, I think, all in now. We find ourselves confronted with purposelessness. We've been through the stage where we all thought we were workers, then we all thought we were consumers, and now we're neither. And it's kind of
Nihilistic.
we're kind of feeling a sense of purposelessness and meaninglessness. And I think so. That's what I'm trying to portray in the whole piece is this sense of loss and how we feel lost. The more that words get reinterpreted and misinterpreted and manipulated by the powers that be, they become meaningless, and so you haven't even got words to sort of rely on and trust anymore. So that's where the sort of dialogue's coming from.
Can I explore? So go back to your comment about religion. Like, I'm an atheist, and I do a lot of study now just on philosophy, and also I like to study people like Bart Ehrman, who talks about the Gospels and how fucking completely out of whack they are, which is funny. But this idea of purposelessness and nihilism, what's the point? What's the point of doing anything?
Yeah.
When you take religion out of society, I think that also breeds that in a way, because one of the things religion does give you is this
structure
bullshit of an afterlife, and that you'll see your dead granny again, and you know
it's totally that. And it's like I've got the big figures in this piece, kind of the 4.5 meters. They're the sort of these man-made forces, right, that have gone rogue, that we've created. Religion, financial institutions, science to a degree. we've created these forces, and they're not following our commands anymore. And now they're controlling us. A combination of that, them going out of the control of the people who used to control them, and the fact that we now have more collective information through the internet stuff means that our foundations of our sort of human identity have been eroded. One of them is a religion. Everyone's kind of clocking on that it's a load of bullshit, get to repress us, you know. But it did give us purpose, and also people have realised that, you know, the fact that they're not workers anymore, which is another form of repression, but gave us purpose. And consumerism gave us purpose, and all those things are being eroded. Politicians who you used to think were kind of trusted leaders, you realise are also bullshitting you. So yeah, we everyone, this buzzword post-truth that everyone talks about, which implies that there was a lovely history of truth, which is actually complete bullshit as well. So the people who use the word post-truth tend to be the people who have exploited us and they're trying to make out that we're in this era of post-truth now, but we've been telling the truth, which is bullshit as well.
So postmodernism.
Well, it comes from postmodernism.
Right.
You know, the post-truth
it's pretty much been shown to be bullshit as well.
Yeah, post-truth tends to sort of imply that, you know, you can now say what you want because you can back it up by saying that's my point of view. That's kind of so it is like postmodernism. I think where it comes from is people like Trump and Putin, who they want to own truth. They will lie and say I wasn't there, even though someone's got a video of them there. But that's because they want to be able to say I wasn't there, and I'm so powerful you have to fucking believe me, you know. And we're
recording this podcast just as the time was. I'm hoping the noose is starting to tighten around Trump. Manafort's just been put away for 7 years, and it was really interesting when Manafort was put away in 2 different courthouses for financial crimes, and his lawyer came out every time and said, "This just shows there's been no collusion with Russia." Right? He wasn't even on trial for that.
No.
I mean, that's a good example, right? Where you just keep banging the same bullshit drum and everyone kind of listens.
That, you know, and that's another sort of trick of post-truth. They just tell the same lie over and over again, even though people are disproving it. They just keep saying, and then it becomes fact. It's like the anti-Semitism thing against Jeremy Corbyn. It's like absolutely based on fucking nothing, and yet they keep on banging it. The media establishment keep on repeating it, and now it's
you throw enough shit at the wall.
Yeah,
stick,
and that's been this government's fucking trick all along, isn't it?
Brexit, etc.
Let's not.
Thoughts on Brexit?
Let's not go there. No.
Let's not go there. Angry?
Yeah, I am. I'm angry, but I'm not surprised either. I was reading this great book, John Higgs. He's written a book called Watling Street. He's written loads of books. Really good one on KLF, by the way. Fucking brilliant.
Okay.
And he's.
We'll put links to this.
He's very clever man, and he's very good at connecting sort of politics, art, and science all together. And he was saying about divisions. You know, like are you Remain, are you Stay, are you gay, are you straight? And he just gave this whole list of are you North, are you South, are you driver and non-driver, are you blue collar, white collar. You know, and you just all these dividing lines, and then actually what you realise is a bit of a bigger picture. There's no divisions because everyone's fucking divided from someone else in a different way. And it's like I think that Brexit's been caused by politicians whipping unhappy people because they've fucked them over into something really sort of unsensible.
There is a danger with all
divisive.
With all the sort of identity politics or whatever, and I'm this and you're that, and I'm you know it's quite dangerous, I think, because
totally dangerous.
Because well, you look at say the gay movement or the black movement in America particularly, that's really important, right? That there's no racism and that we're not fucking homophobic. But then it starts morphing into this. You know, I need a special. There was a thing in America where there was some guy in an office who identified as a furry or a fluffy or something, right? And he was pissed off that there wasn't a cat litter in the men's toilets, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to HR about this.
Yeah.
It's like, please, at what point do you say enough is enough?
It's funny. There's another thing he wrote in that book was actually he's talking about royal family and how they were German, weren't they, from Bavaria.
Yeah.
And how they suddenly decided they wanted to be English and called Windsor, and it's suddenly like he associated it with transgenders, you know. So we go, I want to be called a man now. It's like royal family suddenly going, I want to be called English now, and it happened, and we all towed the line politely.
I mean, I'm all for transgender, but there's a new thing out now. If you're a male who doesn't fancy a transgender female who happens to maybe have a cock, you're considered to be transphobic. Come on, lads.
Yeah, no,
ladies, sorry.
People always push it, isn't it?
How does something like Monster come about? Do you have the idea? Does someone say, do you want to put a thing on? But it's expensive. Where does the funding come from?
We're doing a crowdfunder at the moment, yeah.
Okay, I'll put some money.
Yeah,
there's a link at the blurb of this podcast. Go on to it and give him some money, because
really.
I've seen the sort of setup. You have to put a fucking motor and.
That is the trouble, and each motor costs about 50 quid, and you think how many motors there are, and that's anyway. Yeah, it's a really expensive business. That's why I can't really do it that often. But we're doing a crowdfunder for this one, and we won't get all the money, but we'll get enough to make it happen.
Yeah.
The trouble is, you've got to store it afterwards and all that sort of stuff. I wish I was a painter. So much easier.
And so where is it going to be on?
It's going to be on in a old warehouse in Deptford. 10 days it's going to be open for,
Okay.
And then try and find somewhere else for it probably later. Yeah, it's going to be great. Paul from, do you know Orbital? The band Orbital? Yeah, he's going to do the music for it.
That will be in August?
September the 12th, that is. That's
September the 12th,
yeah.
okay. And so go back to your timeline. You're in school. You're not. How did the art side of you develop then? You weren't allowed to do it in school.
I kind of left college, concentrating on writing scripts.
Screenplays.
Yeah, and then the summer I got my degree. I was living on the Isle of Dogs, and the Mutoid Waste squatted the yard right next to my house, and I needed some electricity to fix their generator. So we ran a cable from my house, and so I got to know them, and they were going to Berlin. This was 1989.
Okay, so explain. The Mutoid Waste Company is a collective of
It was about
performance artists. Would that be fair?
No, sculptors.
Sculptors.
It was definitely sculptors, and
old cars and metal work.
Scrap artists.
Scrap artists, right?
And
they were kicked. Were they kicked out of England? Or they?
Yeah. Well, what happened was So the idea of Mutoid Waste was we used to build sculptures out of scrap. We squat a warehouse, build sculptures out of scrap, have a big party, make some money, and then do it again and then again. And what happened when the acid house scene came along, it became harder and harder to squat warehouses because people were squatting them just for the weekend and having a party and going. And in the end, the police just pretty much wouldn't let us squat anywhere else, and that's where we lived. We all lived in vehicles which you drove into the warehouses and stuff. And in '89, I just finished college, and they were driving to the Berlin Wall to build a ramming machine to drive through it, and I really wanted to do it, so I went with them.
Do you officially join the Mutoid Waste Company, or just hang around with them, or how does it?
You kind of hang around with them,
right.
And then because it was so tight there, it was like there was only 15 of us, and you knew you'd join when you were on the food list, because basically everyone ate communally. So when I first arrived in Berlin, a little bit after them, I was eating in the soup kitchen nearby, and they were all eating this communal food, much better. And then one day, Maggie said, "Do you want to eat with us?" And I was like, it meant you're in.
Yeah,
Then you got your T-shirt and everything.
Yeah.
But then once you're in, it's like that's it. You can't earn any money separately, really. Everything you earn goes in the pot. That buys food and welding rods and diesel. Got one meal a day and a packet of tobacco, something like that. And that's what it was.
I'm trying to work out how you go from kind of, I'm not going to say it's wrong, but it's such a different way of living. How you go from college and did you have a rebellious alternative streak in you all through your life?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that divisive. It wasn't that big a jump. I kind of already I had a caravan in a traveller's site in Winchester, and I was going down there every weekend, and I was parked up with these people called Wango Riley's Travelling Circus, and they were the guys who supplied stages to all the free festivals. Whenever there's a free festival, they turned up. So I was parked up with them and sort of helping them put up stages. So I was all part of that new age traveller scene anyway.
Corey kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
What did your family think of this sort of lifestyle you chose?
They're interested. They're interested.
Like your dad was, who went from place to place with the Navy. Right?
Also, he's an engineer, so he was interested in the sort of mechanical side of things as well, and sort of, he likes that side of what I do. Yeah. So it wasn't a big jump. But what was mad was that once we got to Berlin to build this ramming machine, they'd stopped the shoot to kill policy, so that's why we were doing it, because we knew we wouldn't get shot. But did you ever go to Berlin when the war was happening?
No, not when the war. I mean, I've been.
It was intense.
Checkpoint Charlie, and then even today you can go into East Berlin and go, "What the fuck just happened?"
But it was really intense then, because you could just look over the wall and you could see these houses of people living in a completely different world. And we were building this ramming machine in the bushes, and there's a sort of lookout tower on the other side, and they gradually sort of clocked on that something was happening. We were building it on this old disused railway where there were doors still in the wall, And one day the doors opened and all these soldiers came out, and told us to start antagonising the East and stuff like that. And anyway, in the end, it got too heavy. We're getting more hassle from West German police as well, so we stopped the ramming idea, and we just built turned the ramming machine into this big sculpture that we pushed right up to the wall, and it's sort of leaning over. Anyway.
And then were you there when it came down?
No, but then we left, went back to Holland, and then 2 weeks later it came down. No, 3 weeks later.
You could have rammed it then.
Yeah, we could have, but then probably
would have been one of the most iconic images.
It could have been amazing, or it could have delayed it, or whatever. Could have.
And so you had East German soldiers giving you shit or looking at you, and
no, they came out. They came onto the. There's a good somewhere on YouTube. There's a good clip of them opening the doors and coming out. Yeah, what's matters is we could have done it, and maybe it would have brought down. Then it would have been like, what? These 15 punks from England brought down the Berlin Wall. But
did you feel it was a bit of a failure then?
Just a bit gutted, but actually thinking back, it's probably better that the people did it themselves.
Well, no, you could have been just part of it.
Some crusties, but it would have been great for us,
And paint a picture of the lifestyle then. It's almost like a commune, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely commune, and it was we lived, breathed, spoke, scrap, getting in the scrap, building stuff out of the scrap, making it pay for itself somehow. And you take everything back to the scrapyard and you move on to the next place. So it's always being on the move. So you needed diesel, and the only way you got to move to buy diesel was by you have a party, an exhibition, you get a commission to build a big sculpture or something like that. And what was weird is that some places you went. So for instance, after Berlin, we went to a place called Weichensee in Holland, where the local community had chucked in enough money so we could build this big fist on the sand dune to protest against the industrial waste they're pumping into the sea. So that was there we were invited, treated nicely. Then we went to Paris, where we were just squatting at an old railway warehouse. Got non-stop hassle from the railway police. But we had a big party there. But then we went down to Barcelona. We'd been invited to do an art exhibition, so we get treated nicely there. It was different in those days. There were a lot of crews all just travelling around, and Europe was a kind of freer place than Britain. You could get away with murder. I mean, I think
how did you handle conflict? Or who decides where to go and why, and what's fucking let's not do that.
Votes.
You have votes.
Yeah,
okay.
And everyone had a say.
Was it a lot of drugs?
We had no money. What's quite interestingly. Drugs, we only had what people gave us. We literally had just enough money to get a really basic meal together and some fags. Or if we were doing a party, we'd get free drinks at the bar or a gig or whatever. We just didn't have any money. You had no cash. Every now and again you bought a pair of underpants from Maggie, a couple of sizes too small, and that was your kind of like, oh yeah, thanks for that.
So you were relying on the kindness of strangers a bit as well, right?
Yeah. Well, relying on our reputation.
I'm sure you weren't liked like these fuckers are here. Was there a lot of antagonism towards you?
Mainly, no. We were mainly treated, by the sort of the young. We were treated really well. Obviously because you're a group, a kind of gang. People feel threatened by you, and especially other local crews used to feel threatened. But the only kind of aggression and there's always a couple of mad loners who sort of take it on themselves. I mean, in Berlin, someone kicked off, and I remember we took his clothes. He'd taken his clothes off, and we just put him on the back of the truck and drove him into the middle of town. Just put him in the middle of the square, and then drove back. But I remember, and then in Paris, there was this local crew of rockabillys who decided they didn't like us. But on the whole, you're pretty tight. It was quite.
So how long are you still involved with it?
Yeah.
You don't leave, or you can't? You
don't leave. No,
you don't leave. No.
And but then we all travelled around like this quite intensely, and then we ended up getting given this land in Italy. So a lot of people are still there. But once we stopped moving, the sort of dynamics changed, and the sort of energy changed a bit, and that's what a lot of people just peeled off.
How many people are in it?
When we were in Berlin, there was 15. But I think by the time we got to Italy, there's 22. And now there's probably
80.
I mean, people always talk about, oh yeah, do you know him from the Mutoids? And I've never heard of them before. So it's grown into something I don't know.
And how often do you meet still and then say we're going to do this year?
Yeah. This year I'm going to be working with Joe for Glastonbury with a couple of old timers.
Did you ever go, what the fuck am I doing? I need to fucking settle down or anything like that. Was it you always?
I loved every single minute of it,
Yeah,
and
I can see that, yeah.
and even now it was over 30 years ago, and it's still as rose tinted in my eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of like my best mate is one of the Mutoids, who 30 years later, I still hang out with all the time, and we still talk about it like it was yesterday. From the original 15, they're the ones I see because they're the ones I sort of know best. And also, I think that time was probably the most intense time because we all lived together. We were in each other's, literally in each other's pockets. It's like
and as you said, very little conflict.
Yeah, we always argued all the time, but we were also totally dependent on each other. We knew, and everyone knew that.
Was there a formal mission?
There was to mutate and survive. To
Mutate and survive.
To live off scrap.
Like when you talk about your work, like even Last Supper, the one you're working on now, there's a sort of a kind of a. I mean, wasn't Mad Max an influencer of the Mutoid?
No, we were. Mutoid started before Mad Max, but it had come out by the time I joined. There were some people in the crew who they used to just dress a bit like Mad Max and stuff like that. But actually, Joe, who started it, and his philosophy, his version of Mutoid Waste, which is the one I've sort of appealed to me, but it has humour in it. Yeah, we're going to look really hard, we're going to behave really hard, but actually we're going to smile every now and again and just show that we're fucking taking the piss out of ourselves and you. And that's always Joe's been the thing, he'll be all that, and then a little smile come on his face and you realise that actually it's funny. And that's why, there were some of the Mutoids who had all the kind of furs like Mad Max, and some of us just going around with wellies on our heads, because it was funny, and wearing kind of old, inner tubes as trousers and stuff like that.
Where do you sit on Banksy? Was he?
He was around a bit later.
20 years now, right?
I remember he came down to visit the yard and stuff, but I wasn't there then because I know some people got their trucks painted by him. When he was an unknown, and they sort of tried selling them for hundreds of thousands now.
Dismayland is kind of Dismayland is or whatever.
Yeah, Dismayland. Yeah.
That's in your orbit, isn't that kind of idea of a.
But I think we were more positive. We weren't. It wasn't about all doom and gloom. It was much more like, look, we can live off shit. And in some ways, I was talking to Alex, the Wreckage, and he was going like, dystopia, bring it on, because I want to. And we did. Our showers were made from showers we found in the scrap heap with pumps that we found in the scrap being adapted, and everything. Our sink was something everything we lived off was found. So we were living the kind of the art that we were doing as well. It wasn't just building sculptures out of scrap, building cars out of scrap, motorbikes, practical things, and we lived it, and that's what we did.
Have you lived most of your life hand to mouth, like in terms of money and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely, and that's the bad side. There's no real money in it, and it's funny because like every year I think, this year will be better, and it never is. And like the Last Supper, because it was in the Science Museum, not last year, year before, and I thought that's big time, really. And this year, never been so scared, really. And it's been like that every year. I was saying to Fran, my wife, it's like her birthday this time of year, in March, and every year so we never have any money to do anything.
How did you meet her?
She's a blacksmith. I used to have a workshop, same railway arch in King's Cross. Mutoid Waste, there's another crew called DNTT. They're more performancey than us, but they still sort of made their props out of scrap and stuff, and they're sort of a bit more European. There are Germans in there and a couple of French, and she was with them. And so when the two tribes came together, as it were, we met through that.
And you've been together a long time, yeah?
Yeah, over 20 years, yeah.
And then you adopted a kid, did you?
We had a kid called Swanee, who's now 20...
Really?
21 this year. And then we adopted another boy called Jack, who's now...
And what's Swanee doing?
He's doing graphic design in Manchester Uni.
Right. And what does he think of you?
It's funny because he was really uninterested. He was always around them because we always sort of were working at Glastonbury and stuff like that, but he wasn't particularly interested. But now he's realising more and more what it's about and interests him more, I think. Yeah.
Amazing. When you have this kind of, as you say, you look forward maybe in January to this year's going to be great, like then it fucking isn't. Does it ever get you down, or do you just? Because you have a very kind of positive demeanour about you. Like
I'm optimistic, so I always think there's something around the corner. So it gets me down on a sort of sometimes on a daily basis, where it's just a constant fucking trying to make ends meet, you know, and also the more you have, like, you know, when you're living in a caravan, you don't have many expenses, you know, or when you're living on the road or whatever, you know, once you're living in a house with kids and also a workshop, there's bills coming in and you just can't meet them. That's the stress gets me down. But actually, I always, you know, things do always come all right, you know. It's just your elastic band stretches further and further each time, and you're just like, boing. Anyway, yeah.
It's so, as someone who's fucking middle class Ireland, you just go like it's almost like my fucking parents would kill me if I did that kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I don't, you know, there's something beautifully free about it though as well.
There is, yeah,
you know?
and I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, really. And I think if I put my clothes tomorrow, you know, I'd
You've
have
lived.
fucking great innings, really, yeah. I wouldn't regret any of it. It's just the skint bit's tiresome. When you're skint, you're not as free as it seems. You're free because you've got time, but you haven't got any money to do anything with it. So it's kind of, it's not all rosy. But yeah, you know, you make do.
Yeah. What would you say to the younger you who was leaving college? Looking back, like if you go up to him now and say, what would you say to fucking keep going or?
Yeah, do exactly the same.
Do exactly the same. No regrets.
No.
And the future?
I can't, you know.
What would happen if someone said, here's 110 grand for the Last Supper? I imagine, like, suddenly hitting pay dirt might fuck you up as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, because I think that's one thing that
you're swinging
the way
that.
money always came, you know, initially was it came in big lumps and you spent it really quickly or paid off all your debts or one thing. But it came, it never hung around. It came and went, and it's still a bit like that. Because as soon as it comes in, it always has to go out straight away to stuff that owe anyway. And if you have a little bit extra, then you spend it because you need to feel that feeling. But I think 110 grand, I think I'd be more sensible with that. I mean, I think, you know, one of the things that is not good is having overheads, and I'd love to get like my own place, my own workshop. And
do you get like hassle from landlords just fucking threatening to kick you out and all that shit?
Not now, but this workshop's vulnerable, and we've been here like 20 years, and it's kind of suddenly you suddenly realise
selling them off.
Yeah, suddenly you realise that there's nothing affordable around.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
You know, I started looking for equivalent of this, and you suddenly get sort of right on the outskirts of London, and you still can't afford it.
Zone 6.
Yeah. So then you sort of
Where Dot Master is.
start thinking it's time to leave London. You know.
And that's something that I've picked up with a lot of, because I have interviewed Dot Master and Carrie and like Dot Master is literally out with my sister in Zone 6. This idea that London has the gentrification of London and it just not looking after its artists. Like you look at the art grants and stuff like that should be supporting you. Oh no, you're too much of you don't fit the fucking government idea of an artist. Yeah.
Well, funny enough, wrong.
Good.
Because I was working with this artist. No, the gentrification bit's right.
Yeah.
I've been working with this artist called Tim Shaw, who is a brilliant sculptor, really good, and he wanted to make this moving piece, so I was working with him. And he's an RA, Royal Academician. Yeah. And through him, I met this old sculptor called Michael Sandel, who's about 85, I think, who's an RA as well. And the way they've put my name in the book for a Royal Academician, and so it's going through the process now. So you never know. Yeah, might be accepted.
And that's a stipend you get then, is it?
You don't get anything at all except but you end up running the Royal Academy. So you become you get sucked in as part of the establishment. Which is funny because
you can change it from the inside.
Well, also then because then you get to choose other people coming in, and maybe get a couple of mutoids in the running the Royal Academy will be quite a turn up for the books. It's just weird. It's up and down, isn't it? Like last year, I had two quite big commissions, and my pole dancers went viral in January last year.
Okay, so explain that one.
So I got these sort of robotic pole dancers, but with these CCTV heads, and they were sort of built about 10 years ago or something. Built as a kind of observation of Britain becoming the most surveyed country in the world. So playing with the idea of voyeurism and power. Anyways, so I've shown them in galleries endlessly, but every now and again they get a gig where they go out to some corporate party and they're just literally robotic strippers sort of thing. And I had this gig in Las Vegas in biggest pole dancing club in the world. Yeah. And that one, since they were there,
that sounds like
they went viral, went mental, like all around the world. Just journalists from China, India, everywhere phoning up. Anyway, so they went viral, and since then had some good commissions. So one was for a Chilean stand-up comedian. He wanted this female robot he could talk to and answer, so that was good. And then the other one was for a sex bot for this porn site. I shouldn't want to say what it's called, but yeah. And I said no, because I thought, I'm not going to get dragged into that. But
that grubby area.
He kept on upping the money, and I tell you, I've never been paid so well for a job, and that is where the money is. Important. So yeah, I did it in the end, thinking
everyone has their price.
It would pay for my next show.
Exactly.
Normally, you're sort of building the robots on quite a tight budget, but they had so much money and they threw it that I was actually able to experiment with new techniques and everything like that. So it was a good earner and a good learner for me as well.
Let me just talk a little bit about the thing we briefly touched on, this AI thing and where it's going, right? When I started looking at your work, I was actually thinking this was a commentary on the future, which you've kind of damped down a bit, but to me, when you're talking about what
it was just on that, the bits you've picked out aren't about that particularly, but the sort of single figures I do, like I've done a sort of homeless one and the pole dancers and a couple of prostitutes and stuff like that. They are commentary on the future in the sense that technology leaves this trajectory, doesn't it, in its wake, and it moves so fast that before something's hit, it's just as something's something lasts about a blip, doesn't it, and then it's on the scrap heap and the next one's going on there. And so like this overall picture I have in my head is all these kind of robots knocking about, no longer needed. They're sort of redundant.
So sort of Wall-E kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's that kind of picture. I quite like this kind of idea of all these, and because I build them out of scrap, that's what they are, and especially as sort of things like cars and stuff. They have become robots. When I first started using scrap from cars, it was very basic windscreen wiper, but now you get sensors. You can get all the bits you want. So in some ways, I am taking stuff from the scrap heap and kind of humanising it, I guess. Yeah. And it is a comment on the fact that technology is tripping over itself and chucking it away before it even knows.
I mean, do you think you kind of poo-pooed it? I think when we talked earlier, but do you think we are going to get to this point where we're going to start merging with machines?
We already are. So medically, in some ways, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I think with the sort of droids, the sort of humanoid robots, we're much further behind than they'd like you to think. And it's quite funny. Like for the Science Museum robot exhibition, I had to do a replica of the first ever humanoid robot to come to England, built in England, which is about 1930 or something. And they have this robot that stood up in front of this crowd, gave a speech, could answer questions from the crowd. It's all guys behind
curtains. That was a little fella.
Yeah, they're still fucking doing it now, but just a bit more sophisticated. When I can't remember what that robot was, Sophia.
Yeah.
When she did that talk on television to all those sponsors, she made out she could joke, and it was all fucking scripted. It was obvious. I was sitting watching it with these two AI geeks, who do AI, and they were just going, that's scripted, you can, and it was all scripted. So they're doing exactly the same thing because they're desperate for money. They want people to keep backing it, thinking they're going to hit the great, the robot you could shag, the robot you will do your wash. They're desperate for the cash, so they make it sound like they're just on the brink, but they're not. Yeah. They're still putting the same tricks as they were in the 1930s. That's on the humanoid side of things. I think on the AI side, sort of, as in sort of machines, I think we're already merging with them really, and that's where it'll go. They're building robots now that will survive a long time after human beings. Yeah.
Things like Westworld.
Yeah, do you like that?
I did like it.
I did as well, yeah. I thought it was clever.
It was very disturbing though, because of the fact that it draws out man's basest.
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck and kill, basically.
Well, you had that on one side, and then you had on the other side, like, what is it that makes us human, and what's it called, the Turing test, is it?
Yeah, the Turing test, and also there's something like the value of the uncanny or something, which is something like when a robot becomes so human it's uncanny. I think is what it is. Okay. We change our behaviour towards it or something like that. Okay. So the disturbing thing about sort of Westworld to me is like I could actually imagine a situation where people will go to a theme park and you may not know. I mean, it was full of holes. I thought. I mean, it was like how do you know which one to shoot, and how do you not get damaged yourself, and why can't someone stab you with a knife? There was lots of issues with it, but it was really deeply contemplative.
Yeah, but it had some great bits in there. Yeah.
And then there's also the ethical issue of robots there's a great line which is, if you ask a robot to or you ask a computer to make a cherry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And a robot will go through every option available to make a cherry, including blowing up the world.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right, okay.
so there's a whole list of possible ways of making a cherry, including what happens if I blow up the entire planet. It's a bit like what you were saying about the truth thing and the post-truth argument, where it's going unchecked, right? So there could be an Ozymandias version of you up in Greenland who's building a fucking army that's just going to try for world domination, and no one's going to kind of cop them. I mean, do you...
Well, no, but they are. I mean, that's
drones.
All the money that's going into robots is either from the sex industry, medical industry, or the war. You know, 'cause that's where all the money is, and that's.
I was talking to someone recently about the fact that for the first time in my life, I'm kind of glad I have a sell-by date. Do you know what I mean? I don't. How do you view the future? Like, you've got a young kid who's 20 and another one who's younger.
Sounds so. It's we thought it was complicated being a kid. But imagine how complicated it is now.
Are you pessimistic about the future? Like deep future, 20, 30, 40, when we're gone. Climate, etc.
Pessimistic. I think, without thinking about the catastrophe and all that, that's not what gets me. I think when it ends because it's going to end anyway. What gets me is the blandness that's seeping in. Well, not seeping in, it's gushing in, this sort of blandness where everything gets covered in this sort of blanket of shite.
Beige.
Yeah, it's just... And I was in Westfield shopping centre the other day because Jack wanted us to go and play crazy golf for his birthday. That is a sign of the future. Yeah. The bland, the lighting, the shop fronts, everyone walking around in a daze with their shopping bags. Yeah. It's just... That's the terrifying bit. It's before the catastrophe comes. How far is it going to go down that road where no one really gets any enjoyment out of anything natural?
In many ways, we're robots.
Consumers. We're robotic consumers. But the positive nature of that is I think there's always going to be a crew of people that can take the piss out of it, can fight against it, can, won't toe the line, you'd hope. I mean, in the 1930s, 1950s, life was pretty bland then in a funny kind of way. You know what I mean? But there were always
good old days, were there really?
No, there's always a crew who kind of saw their way through it and laughed at it.
Right, It was great talking to you, mate.
Good to talk to you too.
I will be pledging myself 200 of your finest English pounds to your monster thing
thank you
today.
Very much. Thank you very much.
And I would ask anybody else to follow the link at the bottom, because it's guys like Giles who we need around, and we need to make them, feed them, and make sure that they can make their art. Play us out with one of your songs and tell us what it's about. Okay, this one's going to be called... I'm trying to remember a song. This one is called "Stop That Misbehaviour," and it's a song about neighbourhood watch. And the band watching you, watching us, watching you. The band is? The band's called Ruby Throat, and we are online somewhere. But you have to. Do you remember that woman from Daisy Chainsaw? Anyway, they were quite big in the 80s or 90s. Anyway, she started her band called she's called it Ruby Throat as well, which is a shame because she's a lot more prolific on the internet than we are. And not the female. So it's not the female folk singer. It's the Ian Jury Ruby Throat. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you very much, Sean. Great. Mr. Goody Two Shoes, you know you're gonna lose. Life just ignores you. You can't ignore the booze. Mrs. Goody Two Shoes, you know you're gonna lose. Husband just abused you. You lied about the bruise. Favour, have a word with my neighbour. Turn the noise down. Stop that misbehaviour.
you naughty little neighbour. Stop that misbehaviour, you cheesy little quaver. Stop that misbehaviour, stop that misbehaviour, stop that misbehaviour, you dirty little neighbour. Goody two shoes, ha ha. You know you're gonna lose. Chip Chop Chat Show host who fails to amuse. Ordinary two shoes. You know you're gonna lose. You're both chinless wonders who haven't got a clue. Do me a favour, have a word with my neighbour. Turn the noise down. Stop that misbehaviour, you naughty little neighbour. Stop that misbehaviour, you cheesy little quaver. Stop that misbehaviour, stop that misbehaviour, stop that misbehaviour, you dirty little neighbour. Saga, Vindaloo and Lager. Two shoes. You know you're gonna lose. Make yourself at home. Stand